Oh my goodness. I mean, Twitter has become a fun place. More so, there's drama on Twitter. Joe Rogan has a very good philosophy for social media. I mean, he's not necessarily wrong where he thinks that Twitter exacerbates, foments, actually enhances mental illness. And I don't mean it doesn't turn people schizophrenic. It what's the word? Encourages. It rewards problematic compulsive behavior, much like gambling. Like gambling, people say it's a disease. You go to Vegas and it will change you, and it's designed to change you. The lights, the flashing, the sensory overload. It's designed to do that. Social media is designed to become addictive. It's designed to change your brain patterns to exploit the natural tendencies of your brain. And Twitter's not much different. Rogan, thinks it exacerbates, encourages mental illness, like this compulsive, addictive behavior. And he's probably not wrong. And he has a ghost and post policy, which it's a good policy. He did not adhere to his ghost and post policy over the weekend after having had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on his show for a podcast. For those of you who haven't seen it, I did a breakdown from the Grand Canyon. It was beautiful. The Grand Canyon was beautiful. The summary was, I guess, maybe above average. A breakdown summary of the Joe Rogan RFK Jr. podcast. At one point during that podcast, it starts off talking about vaccines. And at some point during the podcast, Dr. Peter Hotez's name comes up. There are some people who say, don't call him doctor, call him Mr. or Peter, because these honorary titles only give ego, arrogance, and pomposity and don't actually distinguish in terms of intelligence and knowledge. I think I'm using the doctor probably more in a cynical, satirical, sassy way, and not in showing deference, because the doctor has lost his ever-loving mind. At one point during the podcast, they start talking about Dr. Peter Hotez. For anybody who hasn't seen Peter Hotez on the Joe Rogan, go watch it. It's mind-blowing. Peter Hotez has an autistic daughter who he's not shy to write a book about, tout the fact that he's got an autistic daughter, but that he has definitively confirmed the autism has nothing to do with vaccination. And by the way, I'm not making any statements on this. I don't know how I feel about this. I know that prior to COVID, I, in my mind, had written off the idea that there was a correlation or causation between, I should say causation, not correlation, because correlation is just is correlated, not necessarily causal. I had been convinced by the media that Pam Anderson was wrong, vaccines don't cause autism, and people who say that are wrong. I'm not going to call them names. I never really thought anything ill of them. I just, that was it. That was the consensus. I now go back and reassess and question my belief in that now, because if I hadn't been lied to for the last 3 years, I might not think that I have been lied to for the last 44 years, say 25 years of consciousness. I now think that maybe, having seen the way the people who questioned COVID today were demonized, vilified, ostracized, excommunicated, having seen the way that was done to the Malones, to the Weinsteins, to the Harvey Rishes, to the Dr. Francis Christians, I can name more, but I can't, and don't anyone feel left out if I didn't. The way those doctors, credentialed experts, have been maligned, defamed, excommunicated, and the people who were saying what turned out to be right, I now maybe look back and say, well, maybe they did the exact same thing with the anti-vaxxers. I'm not to say maybe there's some truth to it, but maybe I was lied to yet again back then. Setting all that aside, Peter Hotez was on Joe Rogan talking about vaccines. You got to get vaccines, get your shots, get them, get 89, whatever the number's up to now. And Joe asked me, he says, well, I don't want to be mean. You're a little overweight. Do you take vitamins? Do you exercise? Do you eat healthy? And his answer to all three was, no, I enjoy junk food, but it's my daughter. It's my sinful pleasure with my daughter, which I thought was a very cowardly way also of like justifying his sinful pleasure. Like bring in his daughter again so that it becomes, so that you can't criticize him for eating unhealthy because he does it for his daughter. Doesn't exercise, although he looks like he's been losing a little weight now based on that video of the guy who showed up at his house. Don't do that, by the way. We'll get there. But Hotez says, I don't eat well, I don't exercise, and I don't take vitamins. But, if you want to be healthy, get the jab. And Joe Rogan's like, I don't understand that. Like, how do you not give the basics in health before giving the medics in health? They started talking about that with RFK Jr., And I guess Hotez got a little pissed off, you know, les absents toujours tard, but even when he was there, he was wrong. Peter Hotez took to Twitter, put out a tweet, you know, basically demeaning Joe, and I forget exactly what he said, but, you know, oh, give me $50 million for an endowment, you know, instead of going hunting with your buddies. Ad hominem, juvenile, demeaning, condescending bullshit is what that is. I'm sorry, I wasn't going to swear. He deleted the tweet. Joe Rogan said, I saw what you did. And then the fight broke out. He said, look, Peter, you wanna poo-poo on me and call me names? Come on my show. No time limit. Have a debate with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A live Viva Voce debate. No time limits. No one's going to give you a buzzer for 30 seconds. On my channel, do it. And not just that. I forget who was going to throw in however much. They're up to $1.5 million plus to go to a charity of Peter Hotez's choice to sit down and do the debate. And then Peter Hotez and all of his bootlicking, subservient, blue checkmark frothing at the mouth, Twitter heads. It's disgraceful. An expert doesn't have to argue with an anti-vaxxer. And that's when the poo-poo hit the fan on Twitter. I've got to say this one thing. You know, Hotez probably doesn't need the money. Maybe he's not worth the $35 million that his celebrity worth on the internet says it is. I suspect that's wrong. But what's clear is he doesn't need the money. But what's shocking is that he cares so little about the impoverished, vulnerable people of society that he will not do this debate, even if it's to humiliate the anti-vaxxer, even if it means raising $1.5 million plus for his share. And I would throw in 5,000. I'm not yet at Joe Rogan's level of wealth. I would throw in a 5,000 to see this happen. And to the extent that Peter Hotez says, I won't debate this wacky anti-vaxxer, even if it means raising $1.5 million plus for charity, that tells you quite a bit. Okay, that's what's going on Twitter. That's the synopsis. Let me just see if everybody was aware of that. Okay, before we get into, oh no, I'll do the Rumble rants afterwards. So that's what's going on Twitter. He won't debate RFK Jr., by the way, because RFK Jr. is a wacky conspiracy theorist, anti-vaxxer, spews lies, all this stuff. He won't debate RFK Jr. To set the record straight, he'll go on Mehdi Hasan's MSNBC, where he's going to be asked banger questions. The pinnacle of journalism. These are the types of questions he's prepared to field. He's not going to talk with RFK Jr. He's going to go get the business from Mehdi Hasan. Listen to this hard-hitting journalism question. The type of questions, if you had the expertise of Dr. Peter Hotez in your proximity, this is the type of question you would ask him.
Contrary to what RFK Jr. and other anti-vax nuts have claimed, there is no connection between vaccines and autism, no connection, no established documented connection between vaccines and serious diseases or mass death. Vaccines tend to save lives across the board, do they not? That's what the peer-reviewed evidence overwhelmingly shows, does it not? And people are dying right now from COVID still because the evidence on COVID vaccines' efficacy is being ignored or shouted down on social media. Contrary to what RFK...
Can you believe that question? I try not to attribute malice to people. I mean, maybe Mehdi Hasan just believes in what he's doing. He believes that he's so right. But I have great difficulty finding any other way around this. Listen to this question. This question.
Contrary to what RFK Jr. and other anti-vax nuts have claimed.
Contrary to what RFK Jr. and other anti-vax nuts have claimed. Can you imagine being one of the hundreds of thousands of people who have been vaccine injured by this jab and have to listen to this man? Ooh, I was about to say swear. Listen to this man. Lord only knows if he's taken the jab. Maybe he has and maybe he hasn't. There's now discussion in Canada about, not Canada, I'm sorry, there's now a discussion about potential ghost vaxes that people were taking, not actually taking them. Who knows what Mehdi Hasan has done? Can you imagine listening to this guy call you an anti-vax nut if you are now one of the hundreds of thousands who have been vaccine injured by this jab? So listen to this RFK anti-vax nuts. What else does he have to say?
There is no connection between vaccines and autism. No.
There is no connection between vaccines and autism. Oh, wait a minute. There might be correlation, so I might have to attenuate what I just said and listen to how he attenuates it.
No connection, no established, documented connection between.
No established, documented connection. So it goes, there is no connection. No established, which would mean that it would have to have scientific consensus. Documented, which means, who's this?
Connection between vaccines and serious diseases or mass documented connection, no established, documented connection between.
Why qualify no connection with no established documented connection if it's only to shelter your lie from scrutiny? There's no established documented connection because look at the Hotezes of the world. Look at that face, by the way. He actually kind of looks like total villain. Because they refuse to look at it. Or no, but they've looked at it and it's been debunked. And I know that there's studies out there that debunk the debunking, and RFK seems more familiar with them than most. And it's not even worth talking about because there is no connection. There's no established connection
between vaccines and serious diseases or mass death. Vaccines tend to save lives across the board, do they not? That's what
vaccines tend to save lives. Yeah, when they're traditional vaccines that have gone through traditional testing and not experimental mRNA gene therapy shots that bypassed all standard testing, all standard research, all standard protocol, and all standard manufacturing, which, as according to Anthony Housefather of Canada, was the exact same reason, was the exact justification for which the people manufacturing these vaccines refused to put them to market without immunity because they had not gone through the standard procedures.
What the peer-reviewed evidence overwhelmingly shows, does it not? And people are dying right now from COVID still because the evidence on COVID vaccines efficacy is being ignored or shouted down on social media.
That was the question that Mehdi Hassan asked Peter Hotez. Peter Hotez will not debate with RFK Jr., but he'll sit down for the hard-hitting questions, which are 30 seconds of statements. They work. They're amazing. Are they not? There's no documented evidence, and all these people are anti-vax nuts. Go on, Dr. Hotez. Do you have anything to add? But hold on a second. Hotez did have something to add. Listen to this. Is this the video? No. That's oh, I'm going to bring that one up afterwards. Oh, where is? Oh, here. Oh, by the way, he won't debate RFK, but they'll call him all sorts of names. Here's another one. Listen to this. Peter Hotez doesn't understand where RFK Jr. is coming from. Listen to this.
Three or four moving parts to this. So I'm a vaccine scientist. I make low-cost, patent-free vaccines for low and middle-income countries. We made 100 million doses of. We made 2 vaccine prototypes that led to 100 million doses being administered in India and Indonesia. No patents, minimal strings attached. So we actually found a way to bypass
minimal strings attached. Curious, but
the pharma companies, and yet RFK Jr. incessantly calls me a pharma shill when, if anything, our vaccines maybe kept Pfizer and Moderna out of markets in India and in Indonesia. So I don't understand that piece. Three or four moving out of markets in India and in Indonesia. So I don't understand that piece. Three or four moving parts.
Dr. Hotez, you know what would allow you to understand that piece? Discussing with RFK Jr. instead of lying about him and libeling him on Mehdi Hassan's show. I don't understand where he's coming from, that anti-vax quack. Where's he coming from? I don't understand it, but I won't talk to him about it either. Oh, but the poo-poo has been hitting the fan on the Twitterverse, and it's amazing because what you notice is that people think themselves smarter by agreeing with the people that they have said are the smart ones, and they're so smart because they agree with the people that they say are smart. Now, I've been blocked by a lot of these people. It's fantastic. So I can't see his original tweet anymore. Let me see if I can get to his original. No, you see, I can't see it even. Oh, hold on. That's my Twitter. Hold on. Maybe an incognito. I don't know who this person is. I just know that he's quite clearly unhinged. So no, you still can't see it. Still can't see it. It said this guy who's can I even get to his? Oh, here we go. Flaneur. probability philosophy, probability mathematics, probability real life, Phoenician wine, deadlifts and dead languages, Greco living. Oh, maybe I can see his thing here. Well, he basically said in his original tweet, the problem with Joe Rogan's audience is that they're so dumb. They won't even know who won the debate. This guy's such an idiot that, first of all, let me rephrase. I came to the conclusion that this guy was an idiot after having read a few of his tweets. The arrogant pomposity of this guy thinking, these people are so dumb, they can't govern themselves. They can't make decisions for themselves. They need to be pinned down and injected because they don't know that it's for their own good. I'd like to see this guy talk about the Tuskegee experiments. But I just found a gem because it's just you scroll through. I forget who initially found this gem. This is Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He's so smart. He's so smart. He was on a plane wearing 2 masks plus goggles and an N95 when there's a crowd. This is from June 2020. Now, I brought this to his attention. I also called him an arrogant prick. His response to other people who had brought this up was, these people are so dumb, they don't understand the evolution of knowledge and science. No, we do, by the way. We do. And for those who don't remember, let me see. Masks don't prevent COVID. Warning. Images. For those who don't remember, here, verify. Why a face mask box says it provides no protection to the wearer. And if we can see this, this was from the time. This man was so smart and everyone else is so dumb. He couldn't read at the time. Oh, no, but we didn't know that then. Yeah, except for the fact that it said it then. This product is an ear loop mask. The product is not a respirator and will not provide any protection against COVID-19, coronavirus, or other viruses or contaminants. We were only responding to those stupid Joe Rogan followers. They don't understand that science evolves. It doesn't evolve from what the science was at the time and what it was beforehand. And it was known by those who knew at the time that those face masks do not prevent the transmission. There were the gifs of like people wearing these masks and breathing in cold air, and you just see the air coming out everywhere. I was just at an eyeglasses store. There was a person wearing a face mask who took off their face mask to talk on the phone. All that to say, Nassim, Joe Rogan's crowd is so dumb. And when we find photographic evidence that Nassim himself was not just dumb, but prone to panic and prone to making stupid decisions because he wasn't thinking straight because he was in such a state of terror. This is the guy going to lecture me on how dumb Joe Rogan's crowd is? He blocked me. Oh, the amount of people who have blocked me over this are just incredible. Oh, speaking of knowledge at the time. Oh, this is just beautiful. Oh, Nassim Joe Rogan's audience is so dumb. They don't listen to the experts and the knowledge they had at the time. Look at these tweets from Peter Hotez, by the way. I take credit for finding these. This is from April 17th. Rip apart the Trump anti-science White House disinformation campaign. Putin weaponized health communication. The right-wing extremist anti-vaccine attacks against me playing out on Fox News weekday evenings. Anti-vax packs, not a problem, but TikTok, OMG, pure dread and terror. Putin weaponized health communication. This is Dr. Hotez. Dr. Hotez. 11 is November 2021. First, halting Delta transmission through vaccination. This is the doctor who's accusing RFK of being an anti-vax conspiracy theorist, spreading disinformation and lies, suggesting in this tweet, someone actually said, what's wrong about any of those tweets that he said? Halting Delta transmission through vaccination. The vaccine did not prevent transmission. We know that now. Why do we know that? Because they didn't test for it. This is Dr. Hotez, the one who's trying to shame RFK, cower out of chicken out of a debate. Like an intellectual coward, like an ideological, tyrannical coward at the same time, wants to impose his ideological will on others while being a dishonest, disingenuous coward to debate them. Said, November 2021, Halting Delta transmission through vaccination is a high bar, but it's doable. Not when they know that it doesn't prevent transmission, you liar. So you either lied or you're stupid and you got it wrong. You got it wrong because you made statements based on information that you didn't have. It didn't prevent contracting or transmitting the virus. And once that became clear, the goalpost moved from preventing transmission to reducing symptoms. This was either a lie or a scientific mistake made by a so-called expert. It's not going away, Hotez. Peter. Second, this is part of his thread. We must change the definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated because it's working so well that it halted it the first time around. Just keep taking more. It'll halt it the seventh time, even though we never tested it for transmission. Why? Because we're moving at the speed of science with a $sign for the S. I was disappointed when the FDA CDC advisory committees voted down universal third mRNA immunization because the first two worked so bloody well. Surely it's going to work the third time. Third time's the charm, right? Or maybe the fourth or fifth or sixth. Ask Israel. Third, we must recognize that immunity to infection and recovery is not robust. This is a doctor saying this, guys. Someone's in here. Who is this? This is my wife. My wife, she's come. She hears me yelling. Thank you.
Calm down.
This is a doctor. I haven't lost my thought because I'm not going to. This is a doctor saying immunity to infection and recovery is not robust. Let me read this. We must recognize that the immunity to infection and recovery is not robust. Such individuals need to be vaccinated. Otherwise, they're at risk for reinfection from Delta by a factor. What the hell are you talking about, Hotez? I mean, Fauci said the same thing. Immunity from infection. Once upon a time, back in the day, there is no more a robust vaccination than infection. Oh, and then he changed his tune this time around because science changes, people. I think they've gone back to acknowledging that infection provided robust immunity. So let me just see here. Lie about preventing the transmission because the vaccine was never even tested to do that. So either lie or a mistake, Hotez, number one. Change the definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated. Recovery, infection doesn't provide immunity. What was the other one here that I had? This is this was earlier. So this is March 28. March 28, 2020, back in the early stages. Some tough decisions this week and next few days regarding the benefits versus risks of implementing quarantine around U.S. cities with high COVID-19 transitions. We'll skip that one. Fourth and final, we need to vaccinate the kids. This is also, this is part 4 of the last one. November 2021, sorry. Vaccinate the kids. It is imperative to do this to protect them from hospitalization and long COVID. This man is not just wrong. He's not just a liar. This has to be malice. The kids' I'm a quack. I have no scientific expertise. I can't make the statement that kids' risk from COVID was nil, virtually nil, statistically nil. I can't say that no kids, one kid in Canada died with COVID. I can't say that the risk factor from the jab for a kid is exponentially higher than any non-existent, statistically anomalous risk factor from the Rona. I can't say that because I'm just a lawyer. I'm just a former litigator. I'm just a buffoon. I got to defer to the liars. We need to vaccinate the kids. Dr. Peter Hotez should have his license taken from him. Let me see this one here. What's the next one? As I said repeatedly, with this raging transmission, the only way we'll get through in-person classes, if everyone walking into the school is masked, possible exceptions for special needs kids. He's got to look out for his own kids. And everyone 12 and up is vaccinated for COVID-19. Oh, that's right. That was the clincher. Looks like I've tested positive for COVID. Moderate symptoms of fatigue, headache, sore throat, isolating at home and doing Zoom meetings. Oh, you're so impressive. Like we give a sweet bugger all, Peter. I'm grateful to have been vaccinated, boosted, which certainly prevented more serious illness. Just started Paxlovid, brought to you by Pfizer. Transmission up. Be careful. Dr. Peter Hotez won't talk about any of this with anybody. And by the way, neither would I if I were him, because it's a bloody outrage and a bloody embarrassment. And he is a bloody embarrassment. I mean, it's just egregious. That was just from like I mean, I posted that actually a while back, and then I dug it up. That that was just from 15 minutes of looking through Peter Hotez's Twitter feed with certain keywords. Unreal. Oh, but here, hold on one second. He went on. He won't debate. He won't debate with quacks like RFK Jr. He'll only go and take bullshit questions from MSNBC's Mehdi Hassan. MSNBC. Do we remember this gem of scientific diarrhea from, what's her name again? Rachel Maddow. I truly cannot stand looking at Rachel Maddow. Look at her arrogant, condescending face.
I will just say before we do that, just as a personal plea from me.
A personal plea? Don't talk to me. Personal plea from me. All right. So you personally told people to get vaccinated? Anyone who's injured, should they sue you? I did it because Rachel Maddow gave me medical advice without a medical degree. Sue her. Shouldn't they? I thought giving medical advice without a medical degree was wrong, illegal, immoral. I thought RFK couldn't have an opinion because he's not a doctor, but Rachel Maddow can tell you to go get jabbed?
If you have been putting off being vaccinated for whatever reason, don't agonize about it. Don't let anybody make you feel bad about that and get you defensive about it. Just make a fresh decision now. Take a fresh look at the issue now.
Loathsome.
Looking at what's going on now. No matter why you have put it off in the past. No judgment.
No judgment. Yep.
Now is the time to actually go do it.
Listen to what she said.
Because we really cannot afford you having to go to the hospital right now.
She cares about me.
If you're unvaccinated, you have a much...
I want to save this face right there. This. Typically people, as the behavioral analysts will say, you look up when you're trying to access memories. What I see here, a liar, embarrassed with the lies that she's saying, having to look away from the eyes of the people that she's saying it to.
Much higher chance of getting this newly transmissible variant we had never seen before a couple of weeks ago. And it's the unvaccinated people who it's going to make sick. And we really just cannot afford for you to have to go to the hospital right now. I mean, looking all around the country, depending on where you live, there is a very good chance there's no room for you in the hospital right now if you need to go.
By the way, I happen to know that this is also untrue. There go the eyes again. I actually asked people who worked in the industry, and they said in the early stages of COVID, yes, the hospitals were overwhelmed. And then into the pandemic, empty. Empty because nobody was going for any reason whatsoever. It wasn't a question of not having the beds. It was a question of the beds being so empty, you had the nurses and the doctors doing TikTok dances.
And if you can somehow get a bed because you got COVID and you got sick from it because you weren't vaccinated.
Because you weren't vaccinated.
If you are able to get yourself into a bed, you're going to be filling a bed that somebody else really needs. So even if you didn't feel like you could do it before, even if you've been holding off for whatever reason.
How about an adverse reaction from the first one? They're holding off. Hey, Dr. Maddow, should I go get a booster if I had an allergic reaction to the first or the second one? Do tell, doctor.
Look at it freshly now.
Look at it freshly now. 10 to 15 serious events of special interest per 10,000 as the data was properly analyzed later on. Look at it now. I'll look at it now. And my answer would have been a different answer than at least mine was in August 2021.
Now would be the time. Even if it wasn't okay for you before, it's okay for you to do it now.
Who the hell does she think she is? I mean, if anybody took this advice and got injured, Rachel Maddow might be the only one without immunity who can possibly, someone can go after her for civil liability for giving medical advice without a medical degree.
Honestly, your country needs you. And if you are vaccinated, but you haven't been boosted yet and you're eligible for your booster, make your appointment for your booster. Now's the time. And I know from anecdotal experience.
We're done. We've watched enough of that. It makes you want to puke. It really makes you want to puke. But I have to bring up just some highlights from this discussion. Let me bring up some more tweets that were fun stuff. And then we're going to end with. All right. Yeah. Here's one good one, by the way. Peter Hotez says, I'm not going to debate with the rabble like RFK Jr. and anti-vaxxers, but I will debate with them on Twitter when I can pick what I respond to and then not have to face any more questions. Someone interesting. By the way, I think this celebrity net worth story, I don't think it's true. And if it is true, that he's worth $35 million, that he's got a $1.6 million yacht that was gifted to him, I have not been able to find that information anywhere credible, for lack of a better word. So this is someone tweeted. I don't know who this person is, except for the fact that Hotez replied to this. Peter Hotez won't debate with RFK Jr., but he will Twitter debate with someone with 44 followers because it might be something easy to rebut. Quite interesting that the source he pulled that info from. Okay, so I don't know what this is here. And then Peter Hotez replies, "This is laughable fake news. Anyone knows me that I'm an academic with 4 kids, modest townhome in Texas, in Houston. You can ask my stalker. No money in China or foreign governments, none from Big Pharma, nada, nada." Okay. Oh, and am I blocked from this person as well? He won't debate with RFK, but he'll get into Twitter debates that he can, jump in, jump out, seize on what might be overtly inaccurate information, but he won't debate the nebulous stuff because that would be beneath him. But to get to the point of a modest townhome in Houston, Texas, you can ask my stalkers. So there was a video going around of a guy who I don't think the guy's a bad. I've seen the guy's video. It doesn't look like he's a malicious, bad faith person, but maybe just exceeded boundaries. Someone showed up at Hotez's house to ask him questions. I think it's pretty much universally condemned. I mean, I say universally condemned on one side of the aisle. The left condemns it when they're not the ones doing it. The right tend to say don't do it ever, but to the extent that the left is going to do it whenever they want to dox a meme maker, why can't independent journalists on the right go to a public person's house to ask them questions, and then when asked to leave? So this guy shows up, and it's a video, and he asks him questions, and then he shows up and leaves. This is the video actually right here. Hold on, I got my reply here. Okay, let's watch this.
I am. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Hey. So why are you not going to debate RFK on Joe Rogan's podcast?
Oh, come on, that's harassing.
I'm just curious.
What?
Nothing hostile. Just curious.
I haven't said anything one way or the other.
I mean, are you planning on doing it?
He just invited me, so we'll see.
Now, he's smiling and he's shaking hands, but when somebody shows up at your house and he says, "Yeah, that's harassing," and he says it like some of you may think he deserves it, but you would just be caving to your baser instincts to say, "I think he deserves it, therefore I'm going to tolerate what I know is fundamentally wrong to begin with." Do not become the monster you're battling, because if you defeat the monster that you're battling by becoming the monster, well, congratulations, you've substituted the monster, you haven't defeated it. In fairness to Hotez, he looks like he might be losing a little weight. Maybe he took something to heart after Rogan's podcast, and he looks like he looks fitter than he did the last time. But this is inappropriate. Keep playing.
And I think you should, though.
Well, we'll give it some.
Okay.
Okay.
And what do you have to say to people who think they're vaccine injured?
Come on.
Anything for them?
Don't come to my house.
I mean, do you have anything to say to people that think? Do you have anything to say to people? Yeah. I mean, do you think vaccine injuries are real, Peter? Peter, it's just a question. Settle the science now.
So that's the video.
A safari to go vaccinate more kids.
The guy then put out a video later on where he apparently went to a Texas police station and recorded it with the video down. Said, "I think I've broken the law." And he might have thought it was more comedic, but it's approaching someone at their house and then following them to their gate where they close the gate. It's not appropriate, and it doesn't matter how much disdain you have for the individual. In my humble opinion, take it for what it's worth, you can't become the monster that you're battling because, like I say, you don't defeat the monster, you substitute it. And also, it's not because you hate somebody that you can tolerate what you know would be improper or an injustice to someone who you didn't hate. And it was wrong when Taylor Lorenz did it. I mean, the other thing is, if you tolerate this now, you can't crap on Taylor Lorenz's of the world for doxing people, for going to the houses of family members. Because, hey, oh, well, he's a public figure. Libs of TikTok was an anonymous account. Well, they've become public figures to the extent that, you know, they have become part of the public discourse and massive influences in it. If you want to have the moral high ground or even the legal high ground or the ethical high ground to say Taylor Lorenz is a scumbag of a journalist for going to Libs of TikTok house, her family member's house. If you want, that's what she did. If you want to say CNN are scumbags for doxing that woman, for going to her house and publishing it, if you want to be able to continue to say that and actually morally stand for it, you can't tolerate it. Albeit, yes, what this guy did, he did not reveal the address of the individual, but you can't talk. So don't do it. You know, it's if he's running away from an internet debate, showing up at his house is not the fruitful thing to do, especially since there are some people who I imagine are you start getting into vaccine injured kids and you're going to be talking about people who are very angry. And anyhow, I might either be preaching to the choir, or people are going to be thinking I'm, purported to be holier than thou. You're never going to beat them if you play by a set of rules that they don't play by. I understand those arguments. I also understand, at the end of the day, one has to feel good living with oneself and the decisions they've made. So, what was this one here? Oh yeah, no, that's right. Okay, one more. Peter Hotez won't debate RFK Jr., but he'll share articles that call him a liar and an anti-vaxxer. Hitzik, Robert F. Kennedy and the lies of the anti-vaxxers. Many thanks, LA Times, to your support. It means a lot. Oh, he's a victim. He's just a victim. I'm just gonna go quote these articles, and these articles they do my defaming for me. I didn't say it. I didn't call him an anti-vaxxer or a liar, although I did. Oh damn, that looks beautiful. Whatever that backdrop is there, forget that. I didn't say it. I'm just quoting a journalist. Los Angeles Times column: Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a threat to your health and our democracy. The potential next Democrat nominee and potentially the next president of the United States is a threat to your health and to your democracy. This is so frustrating. When Trump came onto the political scene, worse than Hitler. He's a threat to democracy. People forget that George W. Bush, the dumb nice one, was compared to Hitler, was called racist, was said to be a threat to democracy. Ironically enough, probably was more exponentially a threat to democracy than Trump. People forget this is what they do every single time. And you thought it would stop with Trump. Well, DeSantis is worse than Trump. And now it seems RFK, a threat to democracy. And by the way, you want to talk about dog whistles and summoning people to go to your front door? What do you think it says to people who might genuinely believe that RFK Jr. is an existential threat to democracy? I don't know how much we're going to read for this here, but do I want to read this? I don't think we really want to read all this crap. Kennedy claims not to be anti-vaccine, but says he is merely a vaccine safety advocate. That's a well-worn dodge of the anti-vaxxer movement. In 2017, Kennedy told that he wanted to ensure, quote, that vaccines are subject to the same kind of safety scrutiny and safety testing that other drugs are subject to. Oh, what's wrong with that? As vaccine expert Paul Offit observed in response, in fact, vaccines are subject to greater scrutiny than drugs by the Food and Drug Administration. Yep. Why don't the other drugs have immunity as well? Why isn't there a vaccine injury program for other medications? Oh, doesn't matter. I would let RFK reply to all that, but I wonder if they reached out. He also promoted ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine as treatments for COVID-19, medicines that have been approved for other conditions, but have been found through repeated painstaking studies to be useless against COVID. Oh, repeated painstaking studies. I think this has been attenuated slightly. He retailed the familiar anti-vaccine trope that those nostrums have been deliberately suppressed by the pharmaceutical industry and government authorities. They had to discredit ivermectin. We've talked about this as well. It's a baseless claim. The link is, hold on a second. They had to discredit ivermectin, he told Rogan, because there's a federal law, the EUA statute, that says you cannot issue an emergency use authorization to a vaccine if there's an existing medication that has been approved for any purpose that is demonstrated effective against the target illness. That's a baseless claim. There is no such rule. let's just, I mean, this is amazing, people. We're going to do this in real time, and then we're going to stop with that. My understanding is that is true, that you don't get emergency use authorization if there's an existing treatment. They said it's a baseless claim, the LA Times, and then they linked to this. COVID treatments weren't suppressed to okay vaccines emergency use. That's a different statement. There's nothing in federal law or regulation that prohibits a preventative measure such as a vaccine from being authorized for emergency use because a treatment is available, experts and officials say. The body of scientific evidence available has not proven that ivermectin... Hold on. The statement, ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine were suppressed as COVID-19 treatments because the vaccines couldn't receive EUA if such treatments were available. AP's assessment, false. There is nothing in federal law or regulation that prohibits a preventative measure, such as a vaccine, from being authorized for emergency use because a treatment is available, experts and officials say. The body of scientific evidence available has not proven that ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine are effective. Those are two separate statements there. Oh, I'm gonna have to double check this one. I think we might have we might have to call out the LA Times, but I'm gonna have to do a little more digging before I opine on that. And I think that does it for Peter Hotez.